I used to believe that enough love could erase loneliness. A devoted spouse, loyal friends, a table full of laughter. I thought these things would finally quiet the strange emptiness that visited me at night. For a while, they did. Then one rainy evening, long after the house had fallen silent, I sat by the window and realized a truth I had spent decades avoiding. No one could fully enter the room of my mind. Not because they did not care, because they could not. I had spent years trying to explain certain sorrows, the fear that comes with growing older, the quiet regrets that arrive after midnight, the memories that still sting, though everyone else has forgotten them. People listened. They comforted me. Yet the feeling remained that some part of my inner world was mine alone to carry. At first, this realization terrified me. My younger self saw loneliness as proof that something was missing. I chased company the way a thirsty man chases water. Silence felt dangerous. Solitude felt like failure. But the years taught me a gentler truth. To be human is to be, in some profound way, unavoidably alone. You know this already, even if you have never put it into words. No one can feel your grief with your exact heart. No one can stand inside your memories and see them through your eyes. And yet we keep expecting others to rescue us from that sacred distance. That expectation is what hurts. The old me demanded complete understanding. The man I am now seeks sincere companionship, knowing that perfect understanding is impossible. There is peace in that distinction. When I stopped asking others to enter the one room they could never access, I became more grateful for the ways they were present. A hand on the shoulder, a shared meal, a quiet conversation before bed. These moments did not erase my solitude. They illuminated it. If you have ever felt strangely alone in a crowded room, do not assume that something is wrong with you. You may simply be waking up to a truth that every thoughtful person eventually discovers. And once you stop fearing that truth, a deeper question emerges. If no one else can fully enter your inner world, what is the right way to live within it yourself? For years I thought loneliness was the enemy, so I stayed busy. I filled empty evenings with noise. I accepted invitations I didn't really want. I surrounded myself with conversations that left me feeling even more exhausted than silence ever had. From the outside, my life looked full. Inside, something still echoed. It took me a long time to understand that being surrounded by people and feeling connected are not the same experience. One fills the calendar, the other fills the soul. That realization changed everything. The hardest loneliness is not sitting alone in a quiet room. The hardest loneliness is pretending to be someone else just to avoid sitting there. I remember laughing at jokes that didn't amuse me, agreeing with opinions I didn't believe, hiding fears because I wanted to appear strong. Every compromise bought me a little acceptance, but it slowly cost me myself. Perhaps you've experienced something similar. You leave a gathering with dozens of people, yet somehow feel emptier than when you arrived. Not because they rejected you, because the real you never showed up. The old version of me believed acceptance came from fitting in. The wiser version discovered that peace begins the moment you stop negotiating your identity. That doesn't mean pushing people away. It means allowing yourself to be honest enough that the people who remain actually know you, not their performance, not the carefully edited version. You. Ironically, the moment I accepted that nobody could completely understand me, I became far easier to understand. I stopped speaking to impress. I started speaking to express. I stopped chasing approval. I started choosing authenticity. There is a strange freedom in that shift. You no longer fear being misunderstood by everyone because you no longer depend on everyone for your sense of self. If this feels uncomfortable, begin with something small. Spend 10 quiet minutes without reaching for your phone. Write down the thoughts you've been avoiding. Take a walk without trying to escape your own company. At first, your mind will resist. It has been trained to fear silence. But if you stay there long enough, something unexpected begins to happen. The silence that once felt empty slowly becomes familiar, then comforting. Eventually, it becomes the one place where you no longer have to pretend. Looking back, I no longer see loneliness as a punishment. I see it as an invitation to finally meet the one person who has been waiting for my attention all along. And when that meeting finally happens, you begin to notice something remarkable. The relationships around you start changing, not because other people have changed, but because you have. There was a conversation I replayed in my mind for years, not because someone shouted at me, not because we ended our relationship, because I walked away thinking, how could they completely misunderstand what I was trying to say? For a long time, I believed peace would come the day everyone finally understood my intentions. That day never arrived, and strangely enough, I no longer needed it to. One of the quietest signs of maturity is realizing that being understood is a gift, not a guarantee. People don't see you as you are. They see you through the memories they've collected, the fears they carry, and the stories they've already written in their own minds. The younger version of me spent endless energy correcting those stories, explaining, defending, clarifying, trying one more time. Then one afternoon, I asked myself a question that changed everything. How much of my life am I sacrificing just to control someone else's opinion? The answer was painful. Far too much. That was the moment I stopped treating every misunderstanding like an emergency. Some people were never refusing to understand me. They simply didn't have the experiences required to see life from where I was standing, and I couldn't blame them for that. After all, I had done exactly the same thing to other people without realizing it. You begin to notice this as you grow older. The happiest people aren't the ones who are understood by everyone. They're the ones who have stopped making universal approval a condition for inner peace. That doesn't mean becoming cold. It doesn't mean withdrawing from the world. It means accepting a simple truth. Your responsibility is to live honestly, not to manage every opinion about your life. Once I accepted that, my conversations changed. I listened more. I argued less. I became curious instead of defensive. Ironically, the less I tried to convince people, the more meaningful my relationships became. Because people don't connect with perfection, they connect with honesty. If someone misunderstands you today, pause before rushing to explain yourself. Ask one simple question. Is understanding actually possible here? Or am I trying to win a battle that doesn't exist? Sometimes the greatest act of wisdom is allowing people to keep an opinion that no longer has the power to disturb your peace. Looking back, I don't think loneliness disappears. I think it transforms. It stops feeling like isolation and starts becoming the quiet space where you finally become comfortable with your own company. And when that happens, one final realization changes everything. You stop searching for someone to complete your life and begin building a life that you can peacefully share with others. It took me most of my life to understand something I wish someone had told me much earlier. Loneliness is not the opposite of love. Disconnection is. There is a difference. A person can spend every evening alone and still feel deeply connected to life. Another can share a home, a dinner table, even a lifetime with someone, and still feel invisible. For years, I believed my peace depended on finding the right people. Now I believe it depends on becoming the kind of person who no longer abandons himself. That was the final lesson. The day I stopped treating solitude as a punishment, it quietly became one of the greatest teachers I have ever known. In those quiet moments, I began hearing thoughts that had been buried beneath years of noise. I forgave people I had carried in my mind for far too long. I stopped competing with strangers who never knew I existed. I discovered that the voice I had been running from was not my enemy. It was the part of me asking to be heard. If you're walking through a lonely season, don't rush to escape it. Use it. Read the books you've been postponing. Take the walks you've been promising yourself. Sit with your thoughts long enough that they stop feeling like strangers. The world teaches us to fear being alone. Life eventually teaches us that the greatest relationship we will ever build is the one waiting for us in silence. Looking back, every difficult season we have discussed on this channel points toward the same truth. When we talked about the signs your harder days were ending, we discovered that change begins long before circumstances improve. When we explored building assets instead of chasing income, we learned that lasting wealth is created quietly, one wise decision at a time. This conversation follows that same path. Inner peace is also an asset. It grows slowly. It asks for patience. And once you've built it, no opinion, no rejection, and no season of loneliness can easily take it away. That's what retro prophecy has always been about. Not dramatic promises, not flashy psychology, but timeless conversations that help us understand ourselves a little more deeply and live a little more peacefully. So before you leave, I'd like to ask you one question. When was the moment you realized that being alone and feeling lonely were not the same thing? I'd genuinely like to read your story, because someone reading your comment may discover they're not as alone as they thought.